You are very welcome. This is the adult education space for Temple Bethel Riverside, and we are going to start this evening talking about war and peace from Jewish source. I would like why I motivated to talk about it, and we are really very close for a ceasefire, and we are very close for a big change in Middle East. And I hope that many people who are in our society, and especially people who are really with high degrees in education, sometimes they are talking in a wrong way. I changed some messages with a real, very good friend of mine. He's a doctor, he's an illustrated person, and he saw and he followed my post, and I saw and I posted yesterday that we are really very close for the ceasefire and the return of the hostages. And he wrote, "I'm happy because we are close to the end of the massacre." And sometimes you need to read between the lines. And I didn't feel comfortable as a Jew to see that the end of the war represent the end of the massacre. My question is, which massacre? Because I read that October 7th for me was the start of the war and the reason for the war, and October 7th represented in my life a massacre. It was a pogrom. It was the worst thing that could happen in the independent state of Israel. No one of us could imagine that something like this couldn't happen in Israel with the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force. But this person, this nice, is a really very nice person, and he's a professor, he's a doctor for a private university. How it can be that a person with a high level of education can consider a massacre what it's happened nowadays? Of course that the war is nothing comfortable, and nobody is a winner in a war. All sides are losers. And we are in a special time because America, it's not there, but it's really involved 100% with this war. Soldiers are there, they are fighting in the Red Sea, and they are helping Israel against the Houthis and against other armies. But we have a non-conventional situation, and we saw and we experienced anti-Semitism all around the world, like never we saw before. Because we are in the time, this is the way that I'm reading, we are in the time of the social media, that it's really very strong. Every one of us through his social media can develop ideas, can share ideas, sometimes good ideas, sometimes bad ideas, sometimes fake news. We saw a big movement in most of the universities and private universities, and many of them here in America, strong movements against Israel, starting by the most prestigious universities that they allowed to their students and some professors for manifestation against Israel, anti-Semitic and anti-Zionism manifestations. And this is really, really very hard for us as a Jewish community. We are talking about hostages, we are talking about babies, we are talking about women, we are talking about elderly people, we are talking about citizens, not about an army. We are talking about citizens who were sitting in their homes like us now, and the enemy entered there and took them, they kidnapped and they took them to Gaza, just a couple of miles from the border, a couple of miles. And we are talking about 468 days since this war started. And we are talking about humanitarian reasons for the freedom of the hostages. And it's very funny what they say: for humanitarian reasons, we are going to free first the people who are ill. Humanitarian reasons, they need to free all the hostages. More than 1 year that they are kidnapped. What about their health? How is their health? How is the mental health? We need to be. How is to be in the dark? How is to be in a tunnel? How is to be under the earth? Or how is to be living without a bathroom, without a clean clothes, without a good food? It's really very, very hard. And this is what it's pain for me, how people can be from the Palestinian side. And we can't generalize and say Palestinian, but we are talking about a terrorist movement called Hamas. We are talking about other terrorist movement in South Lebanon, Hezbollah. We are talking about Iran. We are talking about Houthis. We are talking about Syria. We are talking about the Arab world that is against Israel. But we need to talk also for our friends, for the American army, the UK army, the French army. They are there. They are in the Middle East, and they are helping for some balance in the force. Okay. My motivation this evening is to give to you a point of view by the Halacha, by the Jewish law, how the Jewish law understand war and how the Jewish law understand peace. And I prepare for you a PowerPoint. I will try to share this PowerPoint, and I'm sure, I hope that it's working. Okay, let's go. Is it open for you, the PowerPoint? Yes, good.
Yes.
And I went through the Jewish sources, because when we are talking about war and peace, and when we have a position, it's not just a position because I believe in this and that. No, it's a religious position about values and about rules during the peace and rules during the war. Okay, let's go. Let's see. Okay. My first question, just let me move. Okay. My first question: how many times does the word shalom appear in the Holy Scriptures? And when you open the different books, you find 237 times in the Tanakh. Tanakh, we call Tanakh Torah, Nevi'im, and Ketuvim. The Torah, the prophets, and the writings. 237 times appears the word shalom in different ways. When we are talking about shalom, we are talking about the different books, different times, but the word shalom appears many, many times. Yes, Oseh Shalom Bimromav, Uyaseh Shalom Aleinu Velkol Israel. This is not something that appears in our prayers books. This is something that coming from the time of the prophet Eov or Job. This is not something new. Our desire of peace in heaven and in the earth. And as the word shalom appears 237 times, we see that the word milchama, that means war, also appeared many times. 316 times the word appears in the different Jewish holy books. And why I saw how many times these words appears in our holy scriptures? Because war and peace, it's not something new, or it's not just something that happened in our times. In all times, in the land of Israel and outside the land of Israel, we read and we know about war and peace and war and wars. This is something that coming with the man from the very beginning of the creation. Yes, the man have this capacity to fight, and the first problems, the first wars, we can consider that they were familiar wars. And this is the way that I understand that war in our time. It's a family war that coming from a long time that we don't have the capacity to find a solution. And then from time to time, we are fighting with our enemies, but our enemies are part of our families. Shalom, it's coming from the Hebrew word shalem, that it means complete or full. The shorish, the root of this word, it's shin lamed mem, that it means shalem. When you are in peace, you are complete, you are full. Do you remember why the King David couldn't build the holy temple or the big temple of Jerusalem? You can open your microphones to answer. Why the King David, who was really an important king, and the borders of Israel were the most important territories in the entire history of Israel, why he didn't have the right to build the holy temple of Jerusalem?
Blood on his hands.
He had blood on his hands.
Exactly. And who built the first temple?
King Solomon.
Okay, Solomon in Hebrew, it's Shlomo. Shlomo, it's the same root of shalom, of peace. Okay? He was the king who built the temple because he was the king of peace and not David. Thank you, Wendy. Milchama, that means war, same root from the word lochem, fight. Lamet, het mem, lochem. Okay, milchama, it's when you don't have peace. This is a very simple way to define what is milchama, but milchama can be a problem between person, between nations, between people. There are many ways to understand milchama. But and now we start to enter deep in the different definition of Judaism about war. there are different types of wars in Judaism. And for this, we can go to the Talmud, Mishnah Sotah, chapter 8, Halacha, law 7, and we can see Milchemet Chovah, obligatory war, Milchemet Reshut, a permitted but voluntary war, and Milchemet Mitzvah, a commended of holy war. It was a war against the 7 nations. These definitions are regarding the 7 nations who were in the land of Canaan before the people of Israel entered to this land. Many of these nations tried to kill the people of Israel without any reason. Just they tried to kill, and this kind of war we call Milchemet Mitzvah. It's a mitzvah to fight against these 7 nations. And for these 7 nations, the most famous enemy was Amalek. Amalek was a nation that after gave to the people of Israel the right to cross or walk in the middle of the people of Amalek, they came from the back and they attacked and they killed many of our sisters and brothers at that time, in the time of the desert. Let's explain a little better about this type of wars. The ancient rabbis taught that there were 3 types of war that the Jewish state should consider. Milchemet Mitzvah, obligatory wars. These are wars that God commanded Jews to fight. They include the biblical wars against the Canaanites, Canaanim, and against the Amalekites, Amalek and Canaan. Okay, this is one type of war, Milchemet Mitzvah. And we have other kind of war that is a defensive wars. These are also obligatory. If the Jewish people are attacked, they are obligated to defend themselves. If the enemy is ready to attack you, you are allowed to attack him. We have the example, the war against Egypt. For example, the war against Egypt, when Israel entered to the Sinai, the Israeli army knows about an imminent attack from Egypt. The Egypt Air Force was in the land, and the Israeli Air Force went till Cairo and to the different bases, and they attack and they destroy most of the Egypt Air Force. It was a defensive war. It was they know that they are going to attack, but they try to prevent this attack. But you are allowed to do this. But this is not coming for our days. This is coming from the ancient days. All these things that we are talking are on the Talmud. Okay, this is not something that IDF create in the last decades. Okay, and we have the Milchemet Reshut. The Milchemet Reshut, it's an authorized war, and it's an optional war. It's a war that required permission of the Sanhedrin. The Sanhedrin were the authorities in that time. And these are wars undertaken for a good reason and where no other form of negotiation remains possible. Okay? You are trying to do all that is possible for peace, but when it's not another option, you can enter in this kind of war, Milchemet Reshut. Okay, these three types of wars that we can see in the different holy books. But now, one of the problems that we have when we have a war, all the rules, absolutely all the rules can be forget. Yes, we can forget all the rules. You are fighting just to survive, and it's really very difficult to remember each rule when you are in a war. But if we are going to Deuteronomy chapter 20, from verse 10 to verse 20, we are going to find important rules of war that the IDF apply till today. This is the important things. What we saw from our enemies in the last year and a half, we didn't see for the IDF. I would like a volunteer to read this text from the book of Deuteronomy. When you approach, and let me explain the context of this text. Okay, the people of Israel were ready to enter to the Holy Land, and then before they enter to the Holy Land, God prepares them and gave rules to keep in the new land. Okay, a volunteer to read the text, please.
I'll read it.
Susie, please.
When you approach a town to attack it, you shall offer its terms of peace. If it responds peaceably and lets you in, all the people present there shall serve you at forced labor. If it does not surrender to you, but would join battle with you, you shall lay siege to it. And when your God delivers it into your hand, you shall put all its males to the sword. You may, however, take as your booty the women, the children, the livestock, and everything in the town, all its spoil, and enjoy the use of the spoil of your enemies, which your God gives you. Thus you shall deal with all towns that lie very far from you, towns that do not belong to nations hereabout. In the towns of the later peoples, however, which your God is giving you as a heritage, you shall not let a soul remain alive. No, you must proscribe them, the Hittites and the Amorites and the Canaanites and the Perizzites, the Hivitites and the Jebusites, as your God has commanded you, lest they lead you into doing all the abhorrent things that they have done for their gods, and you stand guilty before your God. When in your war against the city, you have to besiege it a long time in order to capture it, you must not destroy its trees, wielding the axe against them. You may eat of them, but you must not cut them down. Are trees of the field human to withdraw before you into the besieged city? Only trees that you know do not yield food may be destroyed. You may cut them down for constructing siege works against the city that is waging war on you until it has been reduced.
Thank you very much, Susie. This is really something unbelievable to read, that many centuries ago, the Torah, it's talking to us and it's talking to the warriors, not destroy the trees when you enter to other city. Take care of the trees, take care of the nature. Some people said that the trees reminds, or it's a metaphor from humans. Okay, you need to take care for what you see, what you find, and if this tree gives to you fruits and you can eat from this tree, you need to keep this tree. But also, you need to take care, yes, for women, children, babies. We see in this part of Deuteronomy how the Torah, how the Jewish values appears. First of all, you need to approach to the town and you need to offer in terms of peace. Okay, we need to start for the very beginning. You need to do all that it's possible to live in peace. And it's clear here the name of the nation. I spoke about the 7 nations, and we have here the names: Itim, Amoraim, Canaanim, Peruzim, Hivim, Yebusim, and we don't have here Amalek, but Amalek is part of these nations. Okay, sometimes you must prescribe them for some nations. Yes, you can be more rude than others, than other nations. One of the main things that God asked to fight, it was against idolatry. Okay, this is one of the main problems in that time. Idolatry. They try to destroy the people of Israel, and they try to suggest through the mixed marriage that the Israeli men need to embrace the other gods. And one of the most terrible things for God was the adoration of other gods. Okay, he fight against the gods from Egypt. During 430 years, the people of Israel walk during 40 years in the desert, and all of these nations were polytheist nations. And we are till today monotheism. We believe just in one God, and this one God fights against the other gods. And the representation of this one God was and is the people of Israel. We are like a guarantee of the monotheism. There are other peoples who believe in monotheism, but they believe in other things. We just believe in God, and we are witnesses for this God. We are witnesses for Matan Torah, the time that we received the Torah, we received the law in Mount Sinai. We are the people who receive, or we are the elected people by God, and the other people perhaps didn't receive in a good way that choice. And we have many problems to believe in one God till today. We are paying a high price for the way that we are thinking, the way that we believe, and sometimes when the waters are going in one direction, we are going to other direction. This is the way to understand life, to understand respect for others, to understand also that during the war you can find rules. It's funny that in Geneva the UN create the war rules. But in Deuteronomy, many centuries before, we have rules. We had rules, and the entire humanity just try to develop the war rules in Geneva. But for what? This is my question. For what? We see wars nowadays, and who keep the rules of war? Nobody keeps the rules of God. For what they wrote the Geneva rules of war? For nothing. Who is respect these rules? Nobody respect these rules. But it's very clear, and we have here for the ancient times that the people of Israel, when start a war, had rules. This is another big problems, and this is the problem nowadays with the Gaza war. Many of the women who came back after the first agreements, they spoke about the condition. They spoke about how they were received by the enemies, how they were treated, how they were abused by the enemies. I'm reading and I follow the Israeli media, and all the hospitals in Israel, are preparing special rooms and special teams to receive the hostages, and especially to receive the woman hostages, because they know that the mental health they are in a very bad conditions. They don't know in which condition they are going to find the bodies of these women. But we know that the condition is really terrible after 468 days. But the Torah, the Bible, the book of Deuteronomy, on chapter 21, verses 10 to 14, talk us about the rights of women prisoner of war. But the rules are not for our enemies. The rules were for the people of Israel, for the different tribes. Who would like to read the rules of the women prisoners? Another volunteer.
I can do it. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yep.
Sandra.
Okay.
Sandy. Yes. Go ahead.
When you, an Israelite warrior, take the field against your enemies, and your God delivers them into your power, and you take some of them captive, and you see among the captives a beautiful woman, and you desire her, and would take her into your household as your wife, you shall bring her into your household, and she shall trim her hair, pare her nails, and discard her captive's garb. She shall spend a month's time in your household, lamenting her father and mother. After that, you may come to her and thus become her husband, and she shall be your wife. Then, should you no longer want her, you must release her outright. You must not sell her for money, since you had your will of her. You must not enslave her.
This is the book. Thank you very much, Sandy. This is the book of Deuteronomy, my friends. This is not something that was written yesterday and 1 month ago. You can see how human it's our Torah, and this is a rule. This is a mitzvah that the warriors keep, and it was an obligation. A mitzvah, you can't choose if you keep or not. It's a mitzvah, it's a mitzvah, it's a commandment, you need to keep a commandment. If you falling in love with the woman of your enemy, she's going to become your wife. Okay, we need to remember that we are talking about another society, a society where was allowed to have more than one wife, okay? But anyone, this soldier or this warrior had the obligation to get married with this woman, and she became one of her wives. Sorry. It's not just an enemy inside your home that you can abuse her. Not. She is going to become your wife. And it's a formal and serious relationship. Okay, this is what established the Torah when the tribes enter to fight against other people. It can be you see a lovely woman, but she needs to be your wife. This is the condition. And she will spend a month. A month, it's like a shloshim. It's a mourner time to understand that she will be in that place. She will move. She will stay with this Hebrew soldier or member of a tribe. The 30 days, a month, it's like a period to understand and to leave this mourner, that she's not going to be anymore part of her family. But if the Hebrew man didn't like her anymore, he need to release her, and he couldn't sell her by money. Okay, it's very, very clear, the rules. And these are rules established before the people of Israel entered to the land of Israel. Okay, we are talking about many centuries ago. War rules. We can see how humanitarian it's our text. Of course, war is a war, and it's really difficult, and people died, and families were destroyed, but they had rules if they falling in love with a woman. Okay. Other considerations, yes. Redemption of captives, Pidyon Shevuim. This is something that very actual in our days. Rabbinic literature refers to this mitzvah, to this commandment, as a high obligation, greater even than tzedakah. And we can understand redemption of captives. It's part of tikkun olam, welfare of society. It's a big question, okay, the redemption of captives. If we, as a people, accept to redeem our captives, the enemy would like something for this redemption. And the price that we are going to pay, it's very high. We can see nowadays that 33 hostages will be changed by 1,000 Palestinian prisoners. 33 hostages, and we don't know for these 33 hostages how many of them are alive, how many of them are died. We don't know. But what we know, that 1,000 Palestinian prisoners will be changed by 33. Let me share with you a reading. Professor Mark Wachowski, it's an authority in Halacha, in Jewish law, and Reform Jewish law. And he wrote about this issue, but he wrote about this issue many years ago. And he wrote on the redemption of captives, one of the tactics favored by criminals and terrorists is the kidnapping of innocent persons to be held for ransom. The government of Israel, among others, has amassed much bitter experience in dealing with hostage takers, and Jewish tradition speaks quite directly to this issue. Rabbinic literature refers to the mitzvah of the redemption of captives, Pidyon Shebuim, as a high obligation, greater even than tzedakah. Yet the obligation does have its limits. We are not to redeem captives for an amount that exceeds their monetary value on account of the welfare of society, mibnei tikkun ha'olam, assuming that we have some way of determining this monetary value. And here my question is, can you give a price for a life? Can you say how much are you going to pay for life? Try to think if something wrong happened with your son, with your daughter, with your relative. How much are you going to pay for him, for her? It's impossible to put a value, to say, okay, I'm going to pay $1 million. Also with $1 million, it's not enough. It's impossible to calculate a human life in a material way. Assuming that we have some way of determining this monetary value in contemporary terms, what is the welfare that the rabbis had in mind? The texts offer two possibilities. First, we are concerning that the payment of exorbitant ransom might bankrupt the community. Second, the knowledge that Jews will pay dearly to rescue their captives might tempt others would be kidnappers to seize more Jewish hostages. This is one of the big problems nowadays. Yes, if we are going to change the hostages, it may be that the enemy would like to have more hostages, to kidnap more people, more Jews, more Israelis in the future. If we adopt this second explanation, we would place strict limits on the amount that even wealthy individuals might pay to redeem their relatives, since high ransoms might lead to further kidnapping and endanger the safety of other Jews in the future. Halachic authorities have generally accepted this view with respect to communities and governments. That is to say, while individuals are free to pay whatever they wish for the safe return of their loved ones, and first responsibility of the government is to safety of all its citizens and not only the hostages. The government of Israel has wrestled with this very problem in its dealing with hostage takers. My friends, this book was written in 2000. Okay, we are in 25 years ago. Yes, we are talking about hostages, and this shows like it was written yesterday. Okay, this is a problem for the people of Israel. This is a recurrent problem of the people of Israel. the government of Israel has wasted with this very problem in its dealing with hostages takers. Does this legitimate concern for the safety of hostage justify the payment and unreasonable price for their return, a price that will not doubt encourage other terrorists to utilize this weapon? One contemporary halachic argues that the clear and present danger to the hostages outrights the potential danger to future captives and therefore justifies the payment of any demand that kidnappers set. We disagree especially with the contention that the other citizens of the country are only potentially at risk. This is particularly the case with Israel, whose citizens live under the constant threat of terrorist action. Rather, the policy with regard to hostages must be set in each case in accordance with the best available judgment of the political and security situation. While in some cases the government will give into the demands of the terrorists, in other cases it will resist those demands. While the policy arrive and after consultation, while military and diplomatic experts cannot guarantee that mistakes will never be made, it is the sorest means by which a government can best discharge its ethical responsibilities to its people against the backdrop of the harsh political reality. We can consider that the head of the October 7th terrorist attack, was one of the prisoners that Israel freed to recover Gilad Shalit, the soldier. It was one soldier, and they free 1,000 terrorists. One of them was the head of the October 7th terrorist attack. And then the question nowadays, they are going to free other 1,000 terrorists from the Israeli jails. And the question is if between them you can find in the future one head of other atrocity. We don't have any guarantee, okay? These people are anger and they spend a lot of years in the Israeli jails, and we don't know, they are not friendly. This is, I'm sure. They are not friendly, they are very angry, and I'm sure that like the mentor of the October 7th, many of them are really potential enemies in the future. Yes, Sandy.
Yeah, I'm wondering, does it look like Netanyahu is actually going to sign this, or is he holding out? I heard that he hasn't signed it yet, the agreement to release the hostages.
It's on the last news are a little controversial because I read about that the other parties that are part of the government, one of the ministers, if Netanyahu signed this ceasefire and this agreement, they are going out of the government, and the government will fall, and they will need to call for new elections. They are in a deep negotiation. This is one of the news. The other news is that the Palestinians in the other hours, they put more conditions. They are playing with us. They are playing with the families, the family hostages. Try to imagine. Yeah. Try to imagine you receive the news. Okay, next Sunday noon will start the ceasefire, and they will release 3 hostages. Then you need to wait another week, and they are going to release 4 hostages. And then another week, and they are going to release 3 hostages. We are talking about 33, and we are talking about more than 1 month to release these 33 hostages. They are playing with us, and now they asking for more conditions, and they can see in one hand that we are ready to give them what they are asking. In the other hand, many of the soldiers and many people inside the IDF, they are asking themselves for what we enter to Gaza if we are not going to end this war. 1 week ago, 2 weeks ago, rockets still arriving from Gaza to the south of Israel. They have capacity to reorganize their own army inside Gaza. And more than 800 soldiers died in this war. And now this is a dilemma. We always have dilemmas in the Jewish life. If it's good, if it's not good, we have the hostages, we have the future of the country, what will happen with Hezbollah in the north, what will happen with Syria, what will happen with the Houthis, what will happen with Iran. Now, next week, we will have a new American president. What will happen with Middle East political situation with this new government? We don't know. Jason.
Well, while we've been talking, there was actually a couple of news alerts that came in, and I just got one that said that Netanyahu now says there's an agreement and that it's going to the full cabinet. The security cabinet is going to meet Friday to approve the deal, and the full cabinet would be convened later to sign off and would go into effect Monday, most likely. So it's progress. They say now Netanyahu is saying it's really a deal. So we'll see, but that's a step above where we were.
But we have an entire nation. What is the Israeli army? The Israeli army are the Israeli citizens. It's not the professional army. You have their
Right.
kids. They are kids, 18 years old. Yes, 19 years old, 20 years old. You have the reserve. Okay, they are parents. They are fathers, grandfathers. Okay, they are families, and each soldier who is not in his work position, it's a problem for the nation. How many times Israel can support a war without working? The market, it's terrible. Try to imagine many of the people who went to fight in the army after the period of that they need to serve, that we call the reserve. Yes, they are professionals. They are working in factories. They are working in offices. They are working here and there. And after 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, they were fight. Tell me which industry, which office can support to pay salaries without producing. And this is what happened in Israel for the last year and a half. You have a big mobilization. You have these citizens in the army. They don't produce in their companies, in their factories, in their places. They are fight. And when they return from the reserve, they are giving their life to the nation. And when they return from the reserve, they don't have anymore their position. And you have an unemployment, and you have families with difficult economical problems. And in the other hand, you have the ultra-Orthodox that they don't like to serve the army, and they refuse to serve the army. And you don't have more people to fight. And 800 soldiers that died, it's a big number for a small nation. We are really very sad because we lost 1,200, 400 citizens in October 7th, but in this war, and you can read the news every day, the last day, this last week, 9 soldiers died in Gaza. This shows that the Palestinians are very strong. They're still very strong in Gaza. Okay? And this is the dilemma. Okay? What we are doing, we sign a peace agreement, the ceasefire, we recover the hostages. It's an humanitarian reason. In the other hand, we see that we have different wars. Milchemet Chovah, it's an obligation to fight, to defend the nation. It's not a religious war, but one of the point of view of one of my friends, he saw many rabbis who stimulate the soldiers before they went to the front, and they saw this is something regarding to religious, but the soldiers are not religious. It's a big problem. It's a big dilemma. And we are in the middle of this dilemma. Okay? We are in the middle of this problem, and we are so far from Israel, but we are so close to the problem because we are feeling anti-Semitism here in Riverside. I went to walk in the UCR and I saw many students with the Palestinian flag, and they cover their faces. Okay, and this is just a couple of miles from our homes. Okay, and we can see how they export and how we import the war here. Okay, this is a very deep problem, but in the other hand, we can see the humanitarian side of our people, that it's not coming just for our days. This humanitarian side, it's coming for the time of the Torah, the time that they, and before, yes, the time that they enter, the Torah show us these rules and the Talmud, but we are talking about things that happen before our people enter in the land of Israel. The rules that they create before they enter, that God creates before the people on the tribes enter in the land of Israel. We can see that for us as a people of Israel, it's very clear to have rules in peace times and in war times. And we need to defend. Ubacharta b'chaim. This is the most important thing that we are talking. We need to choose for life. This is our choose. Yes, we choose for life. Okay, this is the most important value, and we need to do everything that it's possible for life. Okay, when we have a good occasion, when we are happy. Okay, and we are in a party, our desire is to life. To life, lechaim, lechaim. It's the way that we understand. Yes, life is the most important thing that we have. It's the most important value. 1948, and then we continue to justify the existence, the right of existence of the state of Israel. And in the next week, we are going to remember the Holocaust. Okay, we are going to remember the Holocaust, and that day, January 21st, we are going to remember the liberation of the Auschwitz camp of extermination camp, and we have our own date. Did you ask why we have Yom HaShoah ve'Hagvura? We have our remembrance day of the Holocaust and why in the international calendar it's on January. Why? Why we have two dates to remember the Holocaust? Yom HaShoah V'Gvura, it's a law, the day of the Holocaust Day. It's an Israeli law established in 1949, 1 year after the independence of the State of Israel, to remember the Holocaust. Many of the new citizens of the State of Israel were survivors, okay? And then Israeli established a law to remember the Holocaust, but the entire world didn't remember the Holocaust till 5 or 6 or 10 years ago. Before this, it was not an international day to remember the Holocaust. And the UN established the Remembrance Day to remember the liberation of the camp of Auschwitz-Birkenau. It was a passive way to show the Jewish people. The Russian army enters to liberate the camp. When we commemorate Yom HaShoah V'Gvura, we remember that we fight by our own. It was Pesach, okay? And we remember when our people fight in the Barsza Ghetto, okay, in Poland. It's really a different point of view. One, it's active, and the other one was passive. And I'm thinking one of the problems from these days, the humanity used to see the Jews like in the Second World War, okay? They enjoy to see pogroms and they enjoy to see how the enemies killed our people. But with the modern state of Israel, we started to show that we defend ourselves from our enemies and we fight against them. And sometimes war, it's not something cool, it's not something nice. Of course, that in a war many people died, okay? But we can understand that it's a war to survive. If we don't fight, the existence of the state of Israel will be dangerous. And this is the situation. Reflection, thoughts. Let me just charge my computer. If not, I go in to lose this conversation. Please, your reflections about this issue. Did you know about these rules, these old rules that appears in the different books about the war?
No.
How you can describe these rules? It's very advanced for that times to have this kind of rules. It's very developed, our people, to have this kind of rules. Or it was very developed for that time. I would like to hear your thoughts.
This is Joan Snyder, the other Joan.
Yes.
I didn't know about these rules. It's very, very interesting talk, Rabbi. But from an anthropological view, you know, people say that war and fighting is part of the human DNA. And it has to do with survival of the fittest, sort of, in the sense of it's them or us kind of a thing, you know, and people always classify people as them or us, and that the them or us is part of humanity, and it allows that it has allowed in the past, in the very, very distant past, the advance, well, maybe advance or maybe decline of humanity, I don't know. But as you say, it starts early on as sort of a familial kind of thing and expands into the way people identify themselves. That's what I had to say.
Thank you, John. Wendy?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that a few years ago, when I was still teaching Sunday school, and the curriculum I was teaching for the sixth grade was global issues. But the curriculum I had issues that were very out of date, like save the rainforest, you know, stuff people don't really talk about anymore. So I wanted to make it current. So I asked my students, what do you want to talk about regarding global issues? And one thing that came up was war. So I had the students pick our global issues and we went through them one at a time, and one of them was war. So we talked about a lot of this stuff in my class for my sixth graders. This is a few years ago now. You were in that class, I think you were sixth grade. So let's see. So that was like, 6 or 7 years ago. So yeah, it was really interesting. We went over, what was in the Torah and in the Talmud and such. So a lot of what you're saying tonight matches what I remember about that.
Thank you, Wendy. Other opinions, other thoughts? I'm thinking that it's very important in the places that we are to talk this, and we need to answer and we need to react if we listen inappropriate things about our people. And we need to teach these rules, and we need to remember that we have rules, war rules in the Bible, and we need war rules nowadays. There is no, in this recent war, we don't have any information and any denounce for a Palestinian woman who was raped like the Palestinian from Hamas did with our women. We don't have this kind of things. Many people try to change the version and to say this and that for the Israeli soldiers. I talk about what happened in Brazil 2 weeks ago. It was a survivor from the musical festival in October 7th, that he was a reserve soldier from the Israeli army, and he was accused by one Palestinian organization in Brazil that for crimes, humanitarian crimes, and the Justice Ministry tried to interrogate him, and he went quickly. He left quickly Brazil, and he went to Argentina, and then the Israeli government suggests to all the Israeli citizens not to visit Brazil because they are on danger. And the same happened in other places of the world, that the governments are not so friendly with Israel. The Israeli citizen must be very, very careful where they enter, because if they serve it in the army, they can be accused for criminals, for criminal abuse and this and that. And this is like a red alert where they can visit and they cannot visit. A similar situation, I'm thinking, that happened with the American citizens in some countries. When you enter with an American passport, you are not so welcome, and it's really very, very dangerous. In other places, you are very welcome. And sometimes when you are a Jew, and we know this for the Second World War, they put in the passport, yes, a stamp, and they put to every man Israel, and they put to the woman Sarah, and it was a swastika stamp, and every country knows that it was a Jew, or the J, okay, the letter J. It's a difficult time. Harvey, did you like to talk? I saw your hand up.
Thank you. I'm sorry I missed the part. I've had some computer issues today. One thing, I don't know if you covered this. Hamas has $11 billion that the leaders have amassed, and they live like kings. They don't live in Gaza. Yet they, pull the strings and start the trouble. And now people are saying that they need to rebuild Gaza and they need to have money. And it's like, okay, they have $11 billion. Why aren't they using the money that they've amassed to help their own people? Why are they not doing that? And why isn't anyone actually talking about? I mean, it's, this is stuff you can look up on the news. This is not stuff I'm just making up. There's articles about how much money these people had. They get it from taxing the people. They were taxing them to get services and goods into the Gaza area, plus the donations they get from around the world. They've just amassed a fortune, $11 billion. That's a lot of money. And these guys live, in different countries, and they just, I think that some of them moved to Turkey recently. It's insane. And then they need money. We have to give them money. We have to give them support. Well, they've gotten $11 billion. Give them that money. Use that money. Why isn't that being said? Aren't people talking about that?
But they use that money to build the tunnels and to build the weapons.
Exactly. They've been using
it. They use you have an underground in Gaza. Yes, the extension of the tunnels, it's like the New York Underground. You have many lines. And other things that I heard the last week, and it's very, very sad for us who are living here in California, that the fires in California were intentional fires, and they accused the Jews for this. Okay? Yes. Yes.
I heard that too.
I heard, and it's an article written by a Jew about this.
Oh, great. That's terrible.
This is terrible. This is terrible. This is really terrible. And this is one of the arguments. Once again, you saw many. I follow. Yes, I watching different channels and some anti-Semitic theories in some places. Everything was burned down, but the synagogue, it's in this place. Why? Okay, some theories about anti-Semitism regarding to the fires, but we can't allow it. And this is happening just here in our region. And they try to speak against Jews regarding the international conflict. It's really very, very dangerous what's going on, and we need to be smart, and we need to talk about it, because the people just read the social media, okay, or they heard some videos, some anti-Semitic videos, perhaps 1 minute video, 2 minutes video talking bad against the Jews, but they don't know the picture. It was funny at the beginning. Many Jewish organizations talk about this war, and many people were walking parades, and they were singing "From the river to the sea, from the river to the sea," and they asked which river and which sea. And the people, they said, we don't know which river and which sea, but they just repeat, okay? And something that happened in Brazil that I saw, one Jew enter in that parade, okay? and he started to shout in Hebrew, but most of people didn't understand what he shouted, and he started to shout, Palestinian Bnei Zona, Palestinian Bnei Zona. That it mean, I'm sorry for the words, Palestinian son of bitch. And all the crowd who didn't understand start to shout, Palestinian Bnei Zona, Palestinian. Okay, this is an example that the people, how the people are manipulated in this time. They don't know anything. They receive a flag and they are going to walk and to shout against Israel from the river to the sea. They don't know which river. They don't know which sea. They don't know nothing about Israel. They don't know nothing about the IDF, but they saw ourselves like killers. They saw ourselves that we are responsible for the modern genocide of the Palestinian people, but they don't talk about this $1 billion that the Palestinian leaders have. They don't talk about other things. I remember a story when Yasser Arafat's wife was pregnant and Arafat had a daughter. She was born in France, in a France hospital.
Yeah.
Why she didn't born in a Gaza hospital or in the region? Because they don't have appropriate conditions. They don't have hospitals. They don't have good health conditions because they use all this money to build the tunnels and to buy weapons. Another thing, another thought in these days, why are important the peace agreements? And in these days, we remember the former American president, Jimmy Carter. In 1978, he signed the peace agreement between Egypt, Israel, okay, in Camp David. And this peace agreement gave us the opportunity to have peace with Egypt till these days. And who is working for these ceasefire agreements? Egypt. Okay, it was an enemy in the past, and nowadays it's in the conversation. But this is politics. Yes, also Qatar. In one hand, they are paying and they support terrorism. In the other hand, they are in the table of they are the big negotiation.
Yes.
There is something else, that you talked about, and that is not only is it social media, but now it's artificial intelligence, and the thing that you didn't mention about Jewish synagogues not being destroyed, the temple in Pasadena, which was just recently doing some wonderful things with education, and that was totally destroyed. And, those are the things that are not mentioned necessarily. So between social media and artificial intelligence, you really have many, many problems today. And it's very difficult for people to get at the truth.
Ruth, but there is something that we can do. And we need to do. We need to talk. When we heard something wrong,
we do. I mean, this is the thing we need to do.
Sometimes perhaps you can fight with a friend. Okay, many of your friends can disappear, but it's important to have a clear position. This is our position. If we don't fight, nobody is going to fight for us. And we study this lesson for each war.
This has to go on. We have to keep fighting for the right thing.
It's very sad, but every day that we are in this world, we need to fight for the right of existence.
Yeah.
Okay, there
Yeah.
other people, the other people question if we have the right or not. Everybody is talking about the right of existence of a state of Palestine. Great. I wish to have two states. Okay.
That can live in peace together.
But first of all, let's heard from the Palestinian neighbors that we have the right of existence. Okay. Today I had an interfaith meeting, and they opened the floor for reflections. Okay, one of my reflections was about the fires. The other reflection was about the ceasefire. Okay, but I didn't hear the same. My wish was for peace and this and that. I didn't hear for the Muslim leader to pray for peace.
No. Oh.
No.
Point you made is very correct. It's the leaders, because a lot of the people can work together. I have Muslim friends who've been in my house. I've been in their house.
Great.
I have Christian friends. I have friends who have different political feelings, but you need to talk, and you need to really stick to what is the right thing. And so anyway, I agree with you.
You know,
We need-
the temple that was not burned in Palisades, that was the Reconstructionist temple. 3 of the clergy and the rabbi emeritus all lost their homes, and a lot of the people who were members also lost their homes in that area. So it was just, you know, they just had luck in the sense that they had a clear area around the temple that didn't burn. I mean, that's the reason. Chabad temple did burn in that area, though. And then also in Pasadena, as Ruth mentioned, that one burned down as well, and that was horrific as well. That was actually 5 miles from my girlfriend's office. Yeah, that's
Recently, they did
terrible.
a lot of reconstruction, and they were doing wonderful programs in helping
beautiful.
people talk to each other. And
Right.
that's one of the things that they stress. But
Yeah, Reconstructionism is kind of an interesting group. We used to, my girlfriend, one of her friends, her father is actually was the cantor there for many years, and we used to go there for services when I was over in LA, and they had a wonderful service, very open. You know, they have a slightly different version of some of the prayers because they don't say that we're the chosen one. That they leave that out. That's one of the things, you know, that it's a beautiful temple though, beautiful temple.
Thank you, Harvey. But all these stories give us a picture about what is war and what is peace. We have a vocation for peace. Yes. How many times we pray shalom during our services? How many times appears the word shalom in our services? This is part of our DNA. And I don't hurt in the same way for other people, okay? But we need to insist, okay? This is our vocation. This is our way. We have rules. We have rules for peace. We have rules for war. Also, the Talmud said if your life is dangerous, you have the right to kill other one. If someone is coming to kill you, you have the right to kill the other, to defend yourself, okay? Because life is the most important value that we have, okay? Yes, Jason, would you like to sing? Okay. I would like to thank for joining me this evening, and I hope that next week, I hope to have reason to celebrate the freedom of the hostages. Tomorrow, we will have a special service, and we will pray for the hostages, and we will pray for peace. Okay, you are very welcome to join us tomorrow at 7 at Temple of Bethel. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Bye.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Thank you.